Greetings, everyone. How y'all doing today? Happy Monday. Monday is the day that is ruled by the moon, and we have the moon in Cancer, which rules the moon. So it's a highly emotional day. It's highly emotional. Cancer is all about our feelings, our intuition, our family, that mothering creative energy. I think the thing that I appreciate most about Cancer energy is that it truly is the energy that sits at the apex of creation. It is a very creative energy. Not only is it about being a mother, but it is the core energy that holds the memory, all of the memory of creation. Because this is a system that we live in. This is all a matrix. Where was the matrix? Yeah, it is, there is that thing of like the matrix, but all of this is a matrix. It's all a web of creation that's pulling all the same resources to recreate itself. We're an ecosystem, and Cancer holds the memory for the ecosystem. There is something in place that when a woman gets pregnant, that when people come out, they all have their nose in the center of their face. They all have two eyes. They all have hair on the top of their head and chin, like for the most part, right? That is a memory. That is a code that is in place that generates creation. And that is the energy of Cancer. It is the mother of all that is. It is the mother of the mother of the mother. It is the creator of this whole reality. And that energy rules the moon. And it's so interesting, I've been studying this stuff for a while. And, there are all sorts of schools of thought around. Like people say, the moon is a satellite. Yeah, the moon probably is a satellite. Or the moon is evil. And because, the mythology around werewolves, right? So the moon turns you into werewolves, meaning it brings out your lower nature. That's what it means. The moon brings out your lower nature. But really what that is saying is that when your lower nature shows up in your experience, your animal, your sexual nature, all of that is the lower nature. We are here to master our lower nature. We're here to have dominion over those aspects of ourselves and use them as we so choose and not be used by them. And when we haven't mastered our emotions or our feelings or our shadows, and we don't understand what triggers us, when we don't have a level, levels of self-mastery, then we are at the effect of our lower nature. That's why I remember before I started really doing the work to heal, I have a lot of Aries placements. And when I was younger, I could just pop off. And before you know it, I was in a fight. Something was going down. Like my emotions would just take over. And I didn't know. I was just having this experience. And I'm like, oh shit, now I'm in a fight with somebody. Or I said something. One time I was having a conversation with one of my aunties. She's really my cousin, but I grew up in one of them black families where your mama is your grandmama and your cousin is your sister. And I grew up in one of those families. So I'm having this argument with my cousin. We lived in the same duplex. And she was just a very busybody. Like she would, how come you don't do this? And how come you don't do that? She was that kind of person. She talked like that. And one morning, she said something to me, and before I knew it, I was calling her dirty black bitches, and like I was being so unbelievably brutal with my language towards her. And it shocked me. like some part of me was saying it, but then there was another part of me that was like gasping, like, oh my God, what are you doing? And then I just stopped it. I just stopped doing it. I just turned it off and started laughing and closed the door and just went away. But that was my lower nature. My lower nature had come up and shown itself. And my higher nature was there at the same time. And so I was able to witness that and then shift it. And that's the work that we get to do. You know, and just because I did it that one time, it shows up in all multitude of ways. I can be around somebody and they say something and I shrink back without me even recognizing that I've shrunken back. Like they've said something that hurt my feelings or something, and then I might not be cussing them out, but I'm in my head, like feeling bad about myself. That's the lower nature. That is the lower nature. And the work for us is to recognize where we are at any given moment in time. Are we in our higher nature? Are we in our mind? Are we in our higher nature, our lower nature? You get to recognize that. And that's because that is really your creative power. Because we're creating here all the time, your creative power is rooted in your response to this reality, your emotions. And when you dominate your emotions, you have greater control over what is projected into this reality. Like you see right now, the world is very upside down and people are very angry. And it's because they don't have any mastery over themselves. They don't have any mastery of themselves. So everyone's just at the effect of the external world. But when we get a greater understanding of ourselves and we love ourselves wholeheartedly and we understand that we live in a world that's really based in oneness, but the self-love is the important part. You got to love the part of yourself. Like I have to love the part of myself that can just cuss somebody out because they looked at me the wrong way. Like you have to love all. You can't get rid of those parts of yourself. They have value. And the thing is, when we begin to polish our own inner world and master ourselves, those aspects of us get transformed into energy and gifts and talents that are really useful for our lives and for who we're becoming. But it takes having the courage to see yourself fully, to really own and take responsibility for who you are. So the sun is in Leo. We are headed to a new moon in about a week, I think, or a little less. And that's really it. I had something that was so funny. I had something happen the other day. I live in this apartment complex that's kind of a quaint little place. You know, it has a courtyard and it's like 16 apartments. And in the first apartment building, there is an African family. And maybe they're like from Liberia or Sierra Leone, but they are fancy. Whatever they are, they're fancy. Because they always have on African garb, like the full head wraps. And I just love that. I think that is so powerful. And yes, and I think they're going to be moving soon, which makes me sad. But yesterday, they live on the second floor. There was a taxi outside. I guess they're called a taxi. And the taxi had just pulled up. And she told me, like, I don't know the woman that was. Like, maybe she was the sister of the woman who lives there, because I didn't know her. But she's in her balcony upstairs, and she's shouting down to me, "Tell the taxi to wait. Tell the taxi to wait." And so I am like, okay. And I think I had like groceries and all that kind of stuff. But I moved over and got in front of the taxi's car and told him to wait. I was like, wait, they're coming. And then she yelled out, "Tell him to park." Tell him to park. And I wanted to say, bruh, you're going to be here a while. Bruh, you don't even understand what you just stepped into. You're going to be here a while. And he looked so confused. And one of the things that I have been to Africa a couple of times. There is a different time frame there. They do not use the same time that we use here in the West. They just have a different relationship with the earth, with nature, with time. And I just never experienced that they were in a hurry for anything. I was with a client of mine the other day, and she's from Somalia, and she was telling me how they don't have her mother's birth time. They just know what season she was born and under the name of the moon, right? Like they don't even know, they don't have a clear understanding of like how we have days of the week, how we have named and described our relationship with reality in the West with all of these incremental things. People from Africa, and at least from Africa, I don't know, but they just are not that way. And when she said, tell him to park, I was like, bruh, you gonna be here a while. you gotta relax. The moon hasn't crossed the such and such yet. And we actually need more of that in the West. Because I know for me, my mind is always sort of counting, always looking at the clock, always sort of having having a belief system that there's some place for me to go or do, which keeps me out of the present. It keeps me out of where I am because I'm in my mind conceptualizing this time thing. And since I have started using the moon phases and the moon cycles, it's really shifted because now I have a completely different relationship with time. And time is a living being. It really is alive. And time has a different relationship with me. I no longer have that sort of, not in the same way. It's still there. And I'm continuing to alchemize it and break it down and dissolve it and challenge it because I need to, but I don't have it in the ways that I used to. And I'm noticing that my anxiety is beginning to dissolve. That internal frustration as a Virgo that I have lived with is beginning to dissolve. My ideas of like future stuff are beginning to dissolve. Like all of it is really changing. And I'm just sharing this to say it's, Cancer holds the memory. The moon is the memory. But the moon is really our time. It really is our time. It's how we keep time. The moon stays in one sign for 2.5 days. And I see those 2.5 days as one day, not 2.5 days anymore. And because the universe, it's what we've done in the West, what we've done to time and the earth and all that sort of stuff has given us these false systems that are really based in capitalism. And so the more we can free ourselves from that, we can begin. All you do is begin to reject it. You just got to begin to reject it. And you do it gently and slowly. You do it in ways that feel right for you. It's not something that you have to force yourself. But if you set an intention around it, you'll begin to see a shift. Zodiac Vision said, I have the same thing going on with time as well. I love it. Yay. Yeah, time makes us run hot as women. Time is a man-made construct, and it runs because we're thinking about it, it makes our bodies hot. It creates frustration. It's why women are having a hard time getting pregnant now, because we're not in our softness. We're not in our relaxedness. We're not in our natural timing. We're in a man-constructed timing, and that is it's really just dangerous in every way. All right, y'all. I love y'all very much. Go pick up the Virgo workbook at my website, healwithmoonmama.com. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.